General Hospital will reveal first. The final days of May usher in a storm of revelations and emotional turmoil at the Quartermaine estate as long-buried secrets come crashing into the present. Cody finds himself suffocated by the weight of guilt, wishing desperately that he had handled everything differently. Watching Gio struggle with the devastating truth about his parentage, Cody realizes that his silence contributed to the pain now carved into the young man's expression. Regret gnaws at him as he recalls every moment he chose to stay quiet instead of protecting Gio from the very heartbreak he now endures. The damage is done, and Cody is left haunted by the question of whether things could have been different, if only he had spoken sooner. Lulu, too, is reeling from the consequences of decisions she thought were made with love. The scathing words from Dante cut deeper than she imagined, not because they were cruel, but because they were true. She watches helplessly as the man she once shared everything with becomes a stranger, hardened by betrayal. Her tears fall not just for herself, but for Gio, the child caught in the crossfire of adult secrets and misjudged intentions. Everything she had tried to preserve is unraveling before her eyes, and Lulu is left standing in the wreckage of what was once her version of a perfect family. For Lois, there is no escaping judgment. Her years of manipulation and control, once cloaked in maternal instinct, are now viewed as calculated deception. Olivia, Brooke Lynn, and others confront her with an unrelenting storm of accusations and emotional fury. The woman who once orchestrated every family detail with a meticulous hand now finds herself cornered and stripped of credibility. Even Tracy, with all her Quartermaine influence, cannot convince Gio to stay under the same roof as the people who let him live a lie. His resolve to leave is not a rebellion, it is a declaration of self-respect, a refusal to be defined by a family that failed to protect his truth. And amidst it all stands Brooke Lynn, grappling with the shadows of her past that have returned to demand acknowledgement. The secret pregnancy, the adoption, the silence, all of it resurfaces now with a force that leaves her breathless. Ned, oblivious to the life-altering decisions made in his absence, is on the cusp of learning everything. Brooke Lynn knows the conversation must happen, not to justify herself, but to invite understanding. If there is any hope for healing, it begins with truth. As the family fragments around her, Brooke Lynn finds strength not in control, but in honesty, finally ready to face the man who deserves to know he was always meant to be part of her story. Second, in the wake of Michael's sudden return from Germany, Nina finds herself overwhelmed by the unraveling chaos surrounding Willow and the custody of the children. Desperate to keep the family from fracturing further, she turns to Sonny for help, hoping that his influence over Michael might encourage a compromise. However, Sonny, still trying to regain his own footing in the family's shifting dynamics, admits that Michael has taken matters into his own hands. The man who left in silence has returned with a resolve that seems immune to persuasion, even from a father figure like Sonny. Nina, caught between her desire to support Willow and her strained relationship with Michael, begins to realize that some battles cannot be fought with good intentions alone. Meanwhile, Michael wastes no time re-establishing control over his children's lives. He brings Wiley back to the safe familiarity of Carly's home, where Amelia awaits. It is a decisive move, one that signals he no longer sees Willow as a stable presence in their children's lives. Willow, devastated and desperate, tries to argue against the separation, but Michael remains unyielding. In his mind, the time for negotiation has passed. Drew offers reassurance, promising that they'll find a way to work things out, but Willow feels the ground shifting beneath her. Every maternal instinct tells her she is losing her children, and that the battle ahead will test the limits of her strength. As tension mounts, Michael's family opens their arms to welcome him back, though the warmth is tinged with uncertainty. His presence is a comfort, yet the gravity he brings cannot be ignored. Old loyalties are tested as alliances shift, and everyone must reevaluate their roles in a family that no longer feels quite the same. Nina, watching from the margins, confides in Maxie about the growing chaos. She voices her regrets, her fears, and the dawning recognition that her efforts to fix things may have only made them worse. The walls she's tried to hold together are crumbling, and with every confession, the weight of failure presses harder on her shoulders. Ava, ever the realist and unapologetically direct, listens to Nina with an analytical ear. Her advice cuts through the emotional fog, brutally honest, but perhaps necessary. She urges Nina to stop trying to manipulate outcomes and instead take responsibility for her part in the breakdown. Whether Nina will heed those words remains to be seen, but one thing is clear: the storm engulfing this family is far from over, and the next moves will define who holds on, and who loses everything. Third, as tensions continue to escalate in Port Charles, Jason finds himself drawn into a quiet but critical meeting with Michael, where the stakes of their next moves are laid bare. The reunion between the two men, though filled with an unspoken brotherly bond, is now overshadowed by the urgent strategy they must align on. Michael, who has returned not just with resolve but with secrets that could shatter his carefully curated public image, knows that the upcoming custody battle requires every angle to be covered. With Wiley and Amelia at the heart of the fight, the last thing he can afford is a scandal that could taint his credibility in court. And so, with Jason's full attention, Michael maps out the next phase of his plan. What follows is a calculated pivot. Michael approaches Sasha, the woman carrying the child that legally belongs to another man, but biologically belongs to him. The past is something neither of them have fully confronted, yet the consequences of their one-night connection now demand action. Michael knows that Sasha's silence is no longer just a matter of personal discretion, it is a legal necessity. To secure his position in the custody trial, he needs absolute certainty that the truth about their child's paternity will never surface. Whether it takes persuasion, negotiation, or manipulation, Michael is prepared to make Sasha see that silence is her only option. The request is heavy, and the burden even heavier, but Michael is no longer the man who hesitates, he's the man who protects his legacy, no matter the cost. Meanwhile, Jason remains the public stand-in as the father of Sasha's unborn child, a role he adopted without resistance for reasons that still remain partly in the shadows. It's a cover that benefits all parties for now, but the emotional toll is growing. Jason's own ethics clash against the layers of lies piling up, yet his loyalty to Michael keeps him in place. Still, cracks are beginning to form, and they threaten to split wide open if the truth ever comes to light. Jason's ability to carry this falsehood without unraveling may soon be tested in ways neither he nor Michael can control. Across town, Curtis grapples with an emotional storm of his own. Portia, still enmeshed in layers of deception, seems incapable of full honesty, especially when it comes to matters that should unite them. Curtis, who has long tried to be the man who forgives and rebuilds, now faces the uncomfortable realization that the foundation of their relationship may be too unstable to support the life he envisioned. With every unanswered question and every evasive response from Portia, his doubts grow louder. The trust he once had is slowly eroding, and though he wants to believe in their future, a part of him fears that continuing forward might only lead to more betrayal and heartache. Fifth, Portia stands at a critical crossroads, her heart aching with the realization that her marriage to Curtis is hanging by a thread. Despite her past missteps and the walls of silence she has allowed to grow between them, she is determined to make things right. Her every word and gesture now carry the weight of desperation, not the kind that begs, but the kind that fights for something once beautiful. She knows Curtis is slipping away emotionally, that his trust in her has frayed with each undisclosed truth and poorly timed omission. Yet Portia believes that beneath the wreckage of their recent struggles, there remains a flicker of the love they once vowed to protect. Whether that spark can be reignited depends on whether Curtis is willing to believe in second chances, or if the damage has already solidified into permanent distance. Meanwhile, Trina and Kai find themselves swept into a moment that neither planned, yet both desired. The intimacy they share for the first time is not simply physical, it's a culmination of emotional tension, silent longing, and the unspoken understanding between two souls navigating complicated worlds. Their connection explodes into a moment of passion, one that redefines the parameters of their relationship and pushes it into uncharted, exhilarating territory. In the hours that follow, the glow of what they experienced fuels an unshakable confidence in their bond. They are no longer dancing around possibilities, they are walking boldly into something real, something powerful, something that could very well become the defining love of their youth. Elsewhere, the shadows lengthen over Port Charles as Alexis convenes a confidential meeting with Christina and Lucky. The three of them, united by blood and history, now find themselves aligned in purpose as they unravel the tangled web of Ava and Rick's blackmail scheme. With sharp instincts and even sharper intellect, Alexis lays out the situation in blunt detail, trusting Christina's passion and Lucky's experience to form a strategic trio capable of countering whatever Ava and Rick are plotting. The secrecy of the meeting underscores the urgency. Every move must be calculated, every word measured, because exposing the wrong truth too soon could destroy lives, not just reputations. In the quiet aftermath of the nurses' ball's chaos, Elizabeth seeks solace and clarity in a meeting with Laura. Their conversation is heavy with the weight of recent events, pain, disappointment, lingering wounds, but also laced with wisdom and compassion. Laura, ever the guiding light in Port Charles, listens with patience as Elizabeth voices her confusion and fear. Together, they reflect on the meaning of resilience, the value of healing, and the kind of inner strength that is forged only through adversity. For Elizabeth, it is not just a conversation, it's a moment of emotional recalibration, one that could mark the beginning of a new chapter in her life if she finds the courage to step into it. Finally, Portia stands in the eye of an emotional storm that she helped create, yet desperately wishes to calm. Her desire to salvage her marriage with Curtis is no longer a quiet longing, it has become a mission rooted in guilt, hope, and the lingering belief that love, once so strong, must still be alive beneath the rubble of mistrust. She replays every moment that drove them apart, the secrets she kept, the words she didn't say, the fears she allowed to silence her. Now, as Curtis becomes increasingly distant and cold, Portia finds herself fighting not only for forgiveness, but also for the fragile remnants of the life they once envisioned together. She knows he is weary, perhaps even done, but she clings to the belief that a shared past and a wounded heart are not beyond repair. What she doesn't know is whether Curtis still sees a future with her, or just the memories of a love that once was. Curtis, for his part, remains tangled in conflict. The man who once loved Portia with clarity and conviction now finds himself looking at her through a fractured lens. Her apologies ring hollow when weighed against the betrayal he feels, and though a part of him wants to believe in reconciliation, another part warns him not to be deceived again. Trust is not easily rebuilt once broken, and Curtis fears that if he opens himself back up to her, he will only be setting himself up for more pain. Still, he sees the sincerity in her eyes, hears the tremble in her voice, and remembers the warmth they once shared. That inner conflict paralyzes him. In his silence, there is hesitation, not a rejection, but a cautious pause. He needs time, space, and a sign that Portia's change is rooted in truth, not just fear of loss. Elsewhere in Port Charles, Trina and Kai's relationship reaches a transformative milestone. After weeks of emotional tension, quiet flirtation, and the blossoming of deep mutual respect, they finally surrender to their feelings. The night they spend together is more than a physical encounter, it is an emotional declaration of trust and vulnerability. In each other's arms, they shed their guarded facades and allow themselves to be truly seen. For Trina, who has lived under the pressure of expectations and legacy, Kai offers freedom. For Kai, who has often hidden behind charm and mystery, Trina is the anchor that brings him back to something real. Their union marks the beginning of a love story that may be youthful in age but deep in substance, and the consequences of this closeness will ripple through both their lives in ways neither yet understands. The morning after, both Trina and Kai walk through Port Charles with a new confidence, a shared glow that cannot be faked. They are no longer simply discovering one another. They are committing to the path ahead. But as much as their intimacy brings them closer, it also exposes them to new vulnerabilities. Secrets they've kept from others now feel heavier. Questions about the future, college, careers, family, loom larger than ever. And yet, in this uncertain space, they find strength in knowing they have each other. For Trina, who has often carried the burden of being the strong one, being held and understood is a revelation. For Kai, whose past has been marked by inconsistency, loving someone so deeply offers a clarity he never thought he'd find. Their journey is just beginning, but the foundation they've built may be stronger than even they know. On another front, Alexis convenes a secret meeting that could shift the power dynamics in Port Charles yet again. With Christina and Lucky at her side, the trio works under the radar to address the mounting threat posed by Ava and Rick. The blackmail scheme, complex and venomous, threatens to ruin more than reputations. It could destroy lives, fracture families, and send shockwaves through the community. Alexis, with her legal brilliance and maternal ferocity, leads the charge. Christina, passionate and unpredictable, brings fire and urgency. And Lucky, with his history and investigative instincts, bridges the emotional and the strategic. Together, they form a united front, determined to unravel the plot before it implodes publicly. What makes this alliance so potent is the trust they place in one another. Though fractured at times, it is a trust rooted in shared pain, loyalty, and an unwavering sense of justice. Meanwhile, Elizabeth seeks a quiet moment of clarity in a meeting with Laura, the town's matriarch and a voice of wisdom. The nurses' ball may be over, but the emotional toll of the evening still lingers in Elizabeth's heart. The chaos, the revelations, the masks slipping from familiar faces, all of it has left her reeling. In Laura, Elizabeth finds a mirror for her own doubts and hopes. They talk not just about the past few days, but about resilience, motherhood, and the cost of always being the one who holds everyone else together. For Elizabeth, this conversation is not just comforting, it is a lifeline. Laura doesn't offer easy solutions, but she offers something far more valuable, the reminder that even the strongest people are allowed to fall apart, and that healing is not a linear path, but a winding road walked with grace and courage. As the sun sets on another day in Port Charles, every corner of the town hums with the quiet urgency of lives in transition. Marriages teeter between redemption and ruin. Young lovers embrace the thrill and risk of new beginnings. Secret alliances take shape to combat threats that lurk in the shadows. And those who have long held the emotional weight of others finally begin to unburden themselves. In this web of tangled destinies, no choice is without consequence, and no relationship remains untouched. The coming days promise reckonings and revelations, each character forced to confront the truths they've avoided, the lies they've told, and the love they either cling to or let go.